Yeah. So Mexico was a game changer. And so I come home and I say, something's not working. Something's not right. I didn't want to come home. I didn't want to leave that person. And now that I'm back, I feel like I have to make changes to bring her back with me that are not going to, that are not going to situate, probably very well with you. I need to be freer. I need to go out. I need to explore. I need to do all these things. And he says something to me that changed the game for us. And he said, I never asked you to do any of that. He said, I do not want to date Kyle's girlfriend. I want to date Crista. That's the only person I've ever wanted to date. And at that moment, I immediately realized that he was correct.
That's beautiful.
Never asked me to be that person. I did that. My fears, my insecurities, everything. I made this person.
And if I may, and it's understandable that you did, right? I mean, first of all, New York is New York.
Ooh, it's a big one.
There's a lot of things that if you are not prepared or you just don't have that toughness,
it will eat you up.
Inside, do the laundry and cook dinner. I swear it will.
It will eat you up. I had never been in contact with so much poverty on a regular basis. So I had to shut that part of my heart down just to survive. And that didn't feel good. I never come across, now mind you, I think New York people get a bad rep because of the way they are. People think that they're mean. I don't think that they're mean. I think that they are busy. They're busy people. So they don't want to chit chat, which is weird because when you're coming from the South, everybody wants chit chat.
Yeah.
Up north, they're like, can I help you? What do you need? Okay. So it was the hardest place for me. I've lived in a lot of places. I've never had such a difficult time putting roots in, making friends. And I make friends. It's like a hobby of mine. It was so difficult to make friends because everybody has their established community, but there's also a collective distrust of each other.
Right.
In New York.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And so I wanted to say that, because I as I'm listening to you, I'm also thinking, trying to keep in mind like what the listener may be thinking, listening to this thing. And I guess I brought that up to say that it's very normal that in a new environment that is uniquely its own, like New York, or some other places, like some people go to California, whatever. That isolation, that's sort of self-isolation and a panic to get to a self identity, an identity that fits into what you were taught was normal, is completely normal and understandable. And when it's time to move on, you can't like be mad at yourself and judge yourself and say, oh, why didn't I see this so much sooner? Why didn't I just logically come to the conclusion that nobody asked me to do that? No, you didn't, because you weren't supposed to yet. You were supposed to grow in a certain kind of way, my opinion, and it's okay. So
you gotta give yourself grace.
Introduce that, yeah,
you gotta give yourself grace, and I would just hope, for folks, if you're entering into that space and you do have a partner, I would hope that you have a partner who would support you regardless of what you're going through. Also, I wish upon you a partner who will also like, hey girl, just want to check in here. You're acting real funny. What's going on? Like, and my partner, while he is very astute and, can see a lot of things and learn a lot of things, he's not a poker and a prodder. So unless something is really toxic or something's really coming up, he's not going to be like, let's sit down and have a talk and a discussion. Something big needs to happen. And so, I always love it. I love attentive partners. When I see my friends who are entering into relationships and I watch their partners, one of my favorite things is if they find themselves an attentive partner, I just smile the whole time. I'm just like, what a blessing to have someone who's literally watching you.
Right.
And when things deviate from their habit, they're like, hey, what's that? What you got going on there? Because sometimes you don't, like you said, I didn't see it. I didn't even see it happening. Right. So, yeah. So I wish that on you all, to have attentive partners that can, pull you to the side, when you are operating outside of yourself and they know you so much, right, to the core of you. And I think ultimately my partner knew me to the core. And so I think if it had gotten too out of hand, that would have been the check-in. And I think, you know, for us, me coming back from Mexico and being like, I feel stifled by this relationship, you know? And another thing that my partner said, which I also really love about him, is he was like, I never want you to stay in this relationship if it's going to make you less of who you are. If you cannot fully be yourself here, then you do need to go somewhere else, because I love you that much. I do not want you to stay here and be bitter. And those are also words that I needed to hear. I will try to be expansive and I will try to accept the person that you are. But if you feel like you have to pare yourself down, mute yourself, turn the volume down a notch to be in a relationship with me, then this is obviously not the relationship you need to be in. And so I also wish those partners on you that will be like, you know what?
Don't do that. Right.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Somebody will be able to handle that. And
that didn't attract me. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Most definitely. So okay. So you come back, you get this wonderful sort of revelation. It all starts to make sense and detangle. And I guess maybe you were gonna say how you stopped requiring of him to be your, what is it again? Your sole sexual partner, co-parent, business associate, therapist, travel companion,
right. All of those things,
manager.
Right?
Yeah.
yeah. So I go out, I get a therapist, mm-hmm. Right? So I get a therapist. I came into relationship with a really good friend, my best friend. And I started making other friends in New York City. And I developed these really, and I had previously had some friendships that I carried from college through to my grad school. They weren't all in New York City. But what I started to do is I looked at my life this way. My partner can do these things for me. I still have these needs that I need to be met. Where can I get those needs met? Oh, well, she can do this for me. He can do that for me. And so what happens is I start compartmentalizing my life. And I don't know if compartmentalize is the right word, but I build a community of people to meet the needs of Crista Carter so that I can be fulfilled all the time. And so, I have my partner, and so we spend time together. That's where I get my physical affection. I get my emotional affection. That is where, we hang out and we do all that. And he's my nesting partner. And so that is who I spend time with. I'm building a family with. That's who I look forward to the future with. Right. And then I have my best friend, and she's this amazing creative artist. And I also get a level of intimacy from her because, and not that all women do this, but because this is a woman, there's a different type of intimacy that we could have. And we talk about things, and there's true friendship there. And she goes shopping with me, and we go on walks. One of my favorite things was like the reciprocity. I'm a gift giver sometimes. And so I'd just be out in the store and I'd see something and I'd think of her. And then she'd be out in the store and she'd see something, she'd think of me, and we'd come together and be like, oh, I got you a thing. And that's such a great, fun thing. And so like getting that type of reciprocity in that friendship, right? And I start doing that in all of these other friendships. And I became this person who just was so fulfilled. Was just really fulfilled. I was living a really amazing life. I mean, I had a lot of other things that were going on, but that started to balance me out. And it took a lot of pressure off of him. He didn't feel like he had to do all those things for me anymore, or feel like, oh, I'm going to disappoint her when I don't show up in a specific way, because that's also hard on your partner, right? It's not that they don't care, and it's not that they don't want to do those things for you. They're just not built for that, baby. That's just not them. They want to, if they could just, buy the add-on package, they would do it, but that's not how that works. And so I also had to realize that it also takes a toll on him when I ask him to do things that he just doesn't do. It's stressful for him to try to meet those needs. And so I just stopped asking.
And do you think do you think it's just an easy way out of what human beings are naturally supposed to do, or how do you meet that kind of thinking, that kind of argument, or that kind of thinking, that, well, it's supposed to be difficult, that's what, grows you as a person, and it builds character and builds strength in the family, and it sets a good example for the children, and you're supposed to go through times where you're figuring things out and it's hard and you hate each other sometimes and yada yada yada. So you shouldn't have, that kind of thinking. How do you meet that when somebody says, well, that's just the easy way?
I believe in working smarter, not harder. I think that we're so dedicated to this struggle narrative that, this struggle love. And it's not that it's not hard. My life is not perfect because I have other people meeting these needs. We still have our moments. We still have to sit at the table and talk about stuff and break them down. Right. It doesn't let your partner off the hook. Right. Because they still have things that they're supposed to do for you, and they're not going to do those things perfect all the time. And it's like, look, I'm only asking you to do these things, so I'm going to need you to figure it out. So no. So it doesn't mean that you're not going to have hard conversation. It doesn't mean that your relationship isn't going to go through its ups and downs. Nothing's perfect. But I think that if we learn to work smarter, not harder, if we build a community of people that support us, a village that supports us, you have division of labor in these villages and in these communities. Everybody has a job to do. Everybody has specific gifts. And so you don't have to do it all yourself. You don't have to exhaust each other. And I've never thought about monogamy as being such an exhausting thing until I really read that book. And I was like, it's exhausting when it's just the two of you. And then you add kids into that, right? Like children. And I think about that all the time. And when we started talking about having children, I was like, I will never have children if we do not have a community. If we are not nearby and situated to our family, that is not something that I wish to do. That sounds exhausting. It sounds horrible.